Look, I'm going to tell you something that'll make your scales crawl. Something that still keeps me up during rest cycles. Even now, 3 solar rotations later. My name is Vorn, and I used to be a senior interrogation specialist for the Calthex Empire. Notice I said used to be. Yeah, there's a reason for that. It all started when Command got, let's call it overconfident. The humans had been expanding into our territory, setting up their little colonies, mining our asteroids, acting like they owned the place. We'd been watching them for about 2 standard cycles, cataloging their ships, their weapons, their pathetic little defense grids. On paper, they looked soft, weak. Their biology was fragile, their technology derivative, their military doctrine. Well, it was almost cute. So naturally, Command decided it was time to send a message. The plan was simple, elegant, even. Capture a human vessel, interrogate the crew, extract their naval codes and strategic positions, then use that information to systematically dismantle their expansion efforts. Clean, professional. We'd done it 100 times to 100 different species. Humans would be no different, right? Oh, how wrong we were. How spectacularly, catastrophically, nightmare-inducingly wrong. The capture itself went perfectly. Almost too perfectly. If I'm being honest, but hindsight is a cruel teacher. We intercepted a small human survey ship near the Keldon Nebula. A glorified garbage scow with minimal armament and a crew of maybe 12. Our battlecruiser, the dominant Fang, could have vaporized them without breaking a sweat. But no. We wanted prisoners. We wanted information. We got, well, you'll see. The boarding action took less than 3 minutes. Their hull breached like wet paper. Our shock troops poured in, and within moments we had the entire crew restrained in their own cargo bay. 11 humans, all wearing those ridiculous blue jumpsuits they seemed to love, all looking appropriately terrified. Except one. He was sitting against a bulkhead, hands zip-tied behind his back, and he was smiling? Not a nervous smile. Not a please don't kill me smile. A genuine, almost amused smile, like he'd just heard the punchline to a particularly good joke that the rest of us hadn't gotten yet. His name tag read Williams. First name Marcus. According to our scans. Age 37 standard years. Former military, current civilian surveyor. Nothing special. Nothing that should have made my primary heart start beating faster. But it did. Bring that one. I told my team, pointing at Williams. The one who thinks this is funny. They dragged him to interrogation chamber 7, strapped him into the neural interface chair, and activated the preliminary scans. Standard procedure. We'd read his surface thoughts, pull out the relevant military data, maybe dig a little deeper if he proved resistant, and have him back in a holding cell before the ship's mess served the evening ration. Williams just kept smiling. You find something amusing, human? I asked, settling into my observation seat. The neural interface helmet descended onto his head with a satisfying mechanical hiss. Oh, absolutely, he said. His voice calm, almost conversational. This is really something. You guys actually did it. My secondary heart skipped. Did what? Exactly. Took the bait. He laughed. A short, sharp sound that didn't match his situation at all. Command said you would. They said the Calthex were predictable, that you'd follow the pattern. Intercept. Capture. Interrogate. Exploit. Like clockwork. I felt my scales prickle. Your command knows nothing. You were a random target selected for the Keldon Nebula, Sector 794, between the hours of 1400 and 1600 Galactic Standard Time. His eyes, those unsettling human eyes with their bilateral symmetry and precise focus, locked onto mine. We've been flying this exact route, at this exact time, for the past 6 cycles. Same ship, same crew, same everything. And you know what? You're the 7th species to grab us. 7th? My lead technician Prax checked his scanner readings, mandibles clicking nervously. Sir, the neural interface. It's not establishing a connection. What do you mean not establishing? I stood, moving closer to the chair. Check the contacts. Verify the. All contacts verified. All systems operational. That is neural patterns. Prax's voice dropped to a whisper. Sir, they're wrong. Williams's smile widened. Oh, they're not wrong. They're just different. See, the thing about humans? We're sneaky little primates. We've been getting poked and prodded by alien species for the better part of a century now. Neural scans, memory extraction, psychological manipulation, You name it, we've experienced it. And we've gotten really good at adapting. Impossible, I hissed. Neural interface technology is absolute. It reads synaptic patterns directly from a baseline neurological structure. Yeah. Williams shifted in his restraints, somehow looking comfortable despite being strapped to an interrogation device designed to cause maximum psychological distress. Problem is, human neurology isn't baseline. It's chaotic, adaptable. We've got these things called neuroplasticity and cognitive flexibility. Fancy words that basically mean our brains rewire themselves constantly. Every experience, every memory, every thought reshapes the neural pathways. Makes us really hard to read. Prax was frantically adjusting controls now, his forearms moving in a blur, attempting deep pattern scan, increasing power to 60%, 70, 80. Williams winced slightly. Oof, yeah, that tickles. But here's the thing, friend. You can scan all you want. You're not going to find what you're looking for. And why is that? I demanded, feeling control of the situation slipping through my claws like sand. Because I don't know anything. I stared at him. You don't know? Nope. He shrugged as much as the restraints would allow. I'm a surveyor. I map asteroids. I catalog mineral deposits. I occasionally argue with my crew about whose turn it is to clean the coffee maker. That's it. No military secrets. No strategic information. No naval codes. Nothing. Then why? Why did we let you capture us? Humans, finished my question. And that smile, that horrible, knowing smile, grew even wider. Because Vorn, oh yeah, I know your name. Your rank, your posting history, everything. Because you're not capturing us. We're capturing you. The interrogation chamber's lights flickered. Then they went out. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in a sickly green glow. Alarms started wailing throughout the ship, that distinctive three-tone pattern that meant hull breach, intruder alert, or catastrophic system failure. Or all three. Report, I shouted into my comm unit. What's happening? Static. Then a voice, my XO Kelvar screaming over sounds of weapons fire. Sir, we're under attack. Multiple breaches. They came out of nowhere, they're everywhere. The line went dead. I spun back to Williams, who was still sitting calmly in the interrogation chair, still smiling that infuriating smile. What did you do? I grabbed him by his jumpsuit. What did you do? Me? Nothing. I'm just a surveyor, remember? He tilted his head. But that ship we were on, the one you thought was a helpless survey vessel, it was broadcasting a very specific signal. A signal your sensors couldn't detect because, well, you don't know what to look for. And that signal, it told a very patient, very heavily armed human assault fleet exactly where you were. My blood turned to ice. You see, Vorn, humans figured out something important about species like yours. You're predictable. You follow patterns. You see prey, you pounce. You capture. You interrogate. You exploit. Williams leaned forward as far as his restraints would allow. So we became the bait, and you, all of you, became the lesson. The chamber door exploded inward. Smoke, gunfire, shapes moving through the haze with terrifying efficiency. My guards went down before they could even raise their weapons, hit by projectile rounds that punched through their armor like it wasn't even there. And then they appeared. Humans, 6 of them. But not like Williams. These were soldiers clad in black armor that seemed to absorb light, carrying weapons that looked brutal and functional and absolutely deadly. Their faces were hidden behind helmets with glowing optics that tracked every movement in the room with predatory precision. One of them, larger than the others, stepped forward and pulled off his helmet. Human. Male. Scarred. Looking at me the way I'd looked at 1,000 prisoners over my career. Target secured, he said into his comm. Then to me, on your knees. Hands behind your head. I complied. What else could I do? The soldier moved to Williams, cutting his restraints with a blade that hummed with energy. You okay, Marcus? Oh, I'm fantastic, Patterson. Williams stood rubbing his wrists. They fell for it completely. Standard interrogation protocols, neural interface, the works, vary by the book. Patterson nodded. Then looked at me with those cold, calculating human eyes. Good. That means the data collection was successful. Command will want a full analysis of their interrogation techniques. Data collection. Williams caught my expression and laughed. Actually laughed. Oh, did I forget to mention that neural interface? It works both ways. While your tech was trying to scan my brain, my implants were scanning your systems, interrogation protocols, ship layouts, command structures, encryption methods. We got everything. This is a war crime, I managed to whisper. War crime? Patterson raised an eyebrow. You boarded our ship. You took our people prisoner. You attempted neural extraction without consent. By any standard in the galaxy, you committed the war crimes. We're just responding proportionally. The ship shuddered. More explosions. More screams over the comm channels. Sir, one of the other soldiers reported. All decks secured. Minimal casualties on our side. The Calthex crew has surrendered. Good. Patterson grabbed my arm, pulling me to my feet. Let's go, Vorn. You've got a lot of questions to answer. And unlike you, we don't need fancy neural interfaces. We just need patience, time, and a very strong understanding of psychology. As they dragged me out of my own interrogation chamber, past the bodies of my guards, through corridors now filled with human soldiers efficiently rounding up my crew, one thought kept repeating in my mind. We never even saw them coming. And Williams, walking beside me with that infuriating smile still on his face, leaned in close and whispered, "Welcome to the human way of war, Vorn. We don't fight fair, we fight smart. And we always learn from our mistakes." They put me in my own holding cells. The irony wasn't lost on me, believe me. Cell Block D, Section 9. The same sterile white room where I'd kept hundreds of prisoners over the years. Now I was on the other side of the energy barrier, sitting on the hard metal bench, staring at walls I'd watched countless others stare at. Funny how perspective changes things. Patterson visited me exactly 6 hours after capture. Not 5, not 7, 6, precise, calculated. Everything about these humans screamed methodical planning, and it was driving me insane. We'd categorized them as impulsive, emotional, reckless. Our intelligence had been so wrong. Good morning, Vorn. Patterson pulled up a chair outside the barrier, casual as if we were old friends meeting for drinks. Sleep well. What do you want? My voice came out rougher than intended. Pride. Even now. Stupid pride. Information, obviously. But here's the thing. He leaned back, that human posture that somehow managed to look both relaxed and threatening simultaneously. We've already got most of what we need. Your ship's computer cores are being downloaded as we speak. Encryption codes, fleet positions, strategic assessments, communication protocols, all of it. Your vessel was basically a floating intelligence goldmine. I felt my secondary stomach clench. Then why are you here? Context. Patterson smiled, and it reminded me way too much of William's smile. Data is one thing. Understanding why you made certain decisions. That's something else entirely. See, humans have this philosophy. Know your enemy. Not just their weapons or their ships, but how they think, their culture, their motivations, their fears. I will tell you nothing. You don't have to. He pulled out a datapad, scrolling through it with one finger. Your service record is fascinating, Vorn. 23 standard years as an interrogator, 217 successful extractions, 49 different species. You were good at your job, really good. So good, in fact, that command kept promoting you, kept giving you more responsibilities, more morally questionable assignments. I said nothing. What could I say? Here's what interests me. Patterson looked up from the pad. 3 solar rotations ago you interrogated a Velkan diplomat, extracted information about their defense grid weaknesses. That information led directly to the siege of Velkura Prime. 2 billion casualties. Civilian casualties. My scales went rigid. That was war. Legitimate military. It was genocide, Vorn. Your empire used your intel to bypass orbital defenses and glass the entire planet from orbit. Men, women, children. The Velkans don't even exist anymore as a species. There are maybe 10,000 left, scattered across refugee stations. His voice didn't rise. Didn't need to. The facts spoke for themselves. In you got a commendation. A promotion. A bigger office. Silence stretched between us, heavy and suffocating. So here's my question, Patterson continued, leaning forward. When you looked at those 2 billion dead, when you knew your work enabled that, how did you sleep at night? I followed orders. The words tasted like ash. I served my empire. I did my duty. Duty, he laughed, short and bitter. Yeah, we've heard that one before. Humans have a long, ugly history of people doing terrible things in the name of duty, following orders, serving the greater good. We've got monuments dedicated to the victims of that kind of thinking. Then you understand. I understand that you're a war criminal, Vorn. By human law, by galactic law, by any reasonable standard of morality. Patterson stood, and for the first time, I saw genuine anger flash across his face. But here's the beautiful thing about humans. We believe in justice. Real justice. Not revenge. Not summary execution. Justice. Trials. Evidence. The right to defend yourself. He walked toward the door, then paused. You'll be transferred to human custody within the next cycle. You'll stand trial at the Galactic Justice Commission on New Geneva. You'll have legal representation. You'll be allowed to present your case. And if found guilty, you'll be sentenced according to established law. His eyes met mine one last time. We're giving you something you never gave any of your victims. We're giving you fairness. The door closed behind him with a soft hiss, and I sat there, in my own cell, finally understanding what Williams had meant. This was the human way. The transfer happened 18 hours later. They moved our entire crew, 347 Caltex personnel, onto a human prison transport. The ship was clean, efficient, and unsettlingly humane. Private cells with actual beds, not restraint racks. Meal schedules that accommodated different species' dietary needs. Medical staff who actually asked how we were feeling. It was disturbing. Williams was there during processing, now wearing a formal uniform with insignia I didn't recognize. Turned out he wasn't just a surveyor. He was Commander Marcus Williams, Human Intelligence Corps, Strategic Deception Division. The survey ship had been his idea. The capture scenario. Everything. You played us, I said when he approached my cell for what he called a welfare check. Human bureaucracy at its finest. Yeah. He didn't look particularly proud or ashamed. Just factual. We needed to understand Caltech's interrogation methods. Needed to map your information networks. Needed to know how your command structure reacts to captured assets. You gave us all of that. We would have done the same. I know that's why it worked. Williams checked something on his datapad. Your empire has a pattern. Vorn. Aggressive expansion. Exploitation of weaker species. Systematic extraction of resources and intelligence. You've been doing it for 3 centuries. The Velkans were just the latest in a long line of civilizations you've consumed. And humans are different? I couldn't keep the sarcasm out of my voice. You're telling me your species has never conquered, never exploited. Oh, we have. Extensively. That's how we know it's wrong. His expression darkened. See, humans spent millennia fighting ourselves. Nation against nation. Race against race. Religion against religion. We've got scars that run deep. Vorn. Cultural trauma that shaped who we became. And eventually, after enough blood and enough suffering, we figured something out. What's that? That strength isn't about domination. It's about cooperation. Protection of the weak. Justice for the wronged. We learned, painfully and slowly, that the measure of a civilization isn't how many worlds it controls. He looked directly at me. It's how it treats those who can't fight back. I wanted to argue, wanted to tell him he was naive, idealistic, doomed to fail. But the words wouldn't come, because deep down in a place I'd been ignoring for 23 years I knew he was right. The trial lasted 6 standard months. The Galactic Justice Commission heard testimony from survivors, examined evidence, reviewed recordings. My defense attorney, a human woman named Torres who fought harder for me than I deserved, argued diminished capacity, following orders, cultural differences in moral frameworks. The prosecution, led by a Velkan survivor whose entire family died in the bombardment I'd enabled, presented the facts with devastating clarity. I was found guilty on 17 counts of crimes against sentient beings, sentenced to 40 standard years in a rehabilitation facility, not a punishment camp. 40 years of education, therapy, and what they called restorative justice practices. The Calthex Empire. They denounced the verdict, called it victor's justice, threatened retaliation, made all the usual noises of outraged authority. Then the humans released their full intelligence report. Every interrogation, every extraction, every atrocity, enabled by Caltech's intelligence operations over 3 centuries. Names, dates, locations, evidence, all of it presented to the Galactic Council with meticulous documentation and irrefutable proof. The Empire collapsed within a year, not through military conquest but through complete diplomatic and economic isolation. Turns out when you've spent 300 years making enemies, and someone finally exposes all your crimes, nobody wants to trade with you anymore. Nobody wants to ally with monsters. I'm writing this from Rehabilitation Facility 17 on Kepler Station. It's year 4 of my sentence. I attend classes on ethics, interspecies relations and something called accountability and reconciliation. My therapist, a patient human named Dr. Okoro, helps me process what I did, what I enabled, what I became. It's hard. Brutally hard. Every day I face what I was and it's like staring into an abyss that stares back with the faces of billions. But here's the thing that keeps me going. The thing that finally made me understand humans. Last month I received a letter from Patterson. He's retired now, teaching at some military academy. The letter was short. Born. Heard you're making progress. Keep going. The people you hurt deserve to know that you're trying to be better. That's not redemption. You don't get that. But it's acknowledgement. And acknowledgement is where justice begins. Stay strong. He signed it. Included a quote from some human philosopher. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. I keep that letter in my cell. Read it when the guilt becomes too much, when I want to give up, when the faces of the Velkan children haunt my sleep cycles. Because Patterson was right. This is the human way. Not conquest. Not domination. Not revenge. Justice. Slow, painful, uncompromising justice that holds you accountable while still believing you can become something better than what you were. Williams visits sometimes. We talk about his deception operation, about how humans spent 50 years developing counter-interrogation techniques after their first contact with telepathic species, about how they studied every aggressive empire in the galaxy and built strategies to counter them without firing a shot when possible. Why go through all this? I asked him. During his last visit. Why trials? Why rehabilitation? Why not just eliminate threats? He smiled that same smile. But now I understood it differently. It wasn't mockery. It was sadness mixed with hope. Because, Vorn, we remember what we were, and we refuse to become that again. He stood to leave, then paused. Every species gets a choice. Evolution or extinction. Your empire chose wrong. But you still get to choose what you become next. The door closed. I sat there, in my comfortable cell with its educational materials and therapy schedules and carefully monitored nutrition, and I finally understood the most terrifying thing about humans. They meant it. All of it. The justice, the rehabilitation, the belief in change. They weren't playing games or maintaining appearances. They genuinely believed that even someone like me, someone who'd enabled genocide, could become better, could learn, could grow, could contribute to something greater than myself. It was the most horrifying and beautiful thing I'd ever encountered. So yeah, that's my story. The story of how the Calthex Empire captured its first human and learned, way too late, that humans don't play the game the way everyone else does. They change the rules. They win by making you realize you were wrong to fight in the first place. And the really scary part. It works. My empire is gone. My career is over. My old life is ashes. But I'm still here. Still breathing. Still learning. Still trying to understand how I became a monster, and how maybe I can become something else. The first human we captured was the last one we ever saw. Not because they killed us, but because after meeting them, after really understanding them, we could never see the galaxy the same way again. And that's the most effective weapon of all. The end.
If you enjoyed the stories like this, you are watching Sci-Fi HFY channel. For more interesting and engaging stories like this, please stay tuned to my channel.